And I felt, you know what, I know I'm bringing something. I know this is something different. You know, coming in at 305 pounds, absolutely shredded, and you're like, man.
You were 305 pounds?
305.
You heard that right, and it's not just me saying it. Samson Dauda himself revealed that he stepped on stage at 305 pounds last weekend when he claimed the Mr. Olympia title. This makes him the heaviest Mr. Olympia winner of all time and one of the heaviest competitors ever to grace a bodybuilding stage. In this video, I want to compare this version of Samson with the previous heaviest Mr. Olympia winner, Big Ramy, who usually weighed around 300 pounds on stage. When Ramy won in 2020, I believe he was closer to 290, and in 2021 probably just under 300. But here's the thing, I believe Ramy was already past his prime when he won his Olympias. I know, guys, there's also the legendary Ronnie Coleman, reportedly at 287 in 2003 and 295 in 2004. If you want to see a comparison between Samson and those versions of Ronnie, hit that like button and get this video to 700 likes. But back to Big Ramy, he's a two-time Mr. Olympia, winning in 2020 and 2021, and was the heaviest champion until Samson came along this year, at least on paper. For this comparison, I want to put him up against Samson in his absolute best form. And no, I'm not talking about his 2013 New York Pro or his 2017 Mr. Olympia versions. You might be surprised by this, but in this video I'll be using Big Ramy's 2018 version. But Supersetman, wasn't that the year he placed 6th? Yes, it was. He missed the mark at prejudging and couldn't recover in the rankings. But true Big Ramy fans know what happened during the finals. In my opinion, he returned looking like the real Mr. Olympia. Better than Sean Roden, better than Phil Heath, and better than anyone who placed above him that year. I'll likely do more videos on this in the future now that I've tracked down the finals pictures. The reason you don't see this comparison done often is because Ramy didn't hit all the mandatory poses during his finals routine. But after digging through the depths of the internet for you guys, I found some high quality shots of his finals compulsory. So in this video I'm going to compare what I believe to be the best ever version of Big Ramy, his 2018 Mr. Olympia finals, to the best version of our newest Mr. Olympia champion Samson Dauda from the 2024 Mr. Olympia. Front double biceps. As you've seen from my slideshow earlier, some of these finals photos for Big Ramy are from an angle, the case being with the front double biceps too, so sometimes I'll be using the prejudging photos. Just for reference, in the prejudging he had purple trunks and in the finals he had green trunks. What I want to showcase in this prejudging pic is Ramy's flow. Even though he is a mass monster, he's got a pretty decent taper. However, Samson Dauda is just on another level when it comes to proportions. He makes Ramy look blocky. Now, even if we're looking again at Ramy's finals photo, he wasn't completely flexing his quads here, which is not the best look. To be honest, aside from the arms where I have Big Ramy winning against Samson here in 2018, Ramy kinda loses to Samson here. Samson, who has a better overall flow, a better looking midsection hitting that vacuum, and a more detailed lower body. Overall, I would give this first pose to the 2024 Mr. Olympia. Next is the front lat spread, and besides this photo from that same angle, we also have a straight front picture from the finals where we can see Big Ramy in the best way possible. Arguably one of his best poses in his prime. Big Ramy was invincible in this pose, and we can see why. He's wide as a tank, his chest is ginormous, he's got a relatively tight waist, and together with those huge wheels gives him an unmatchable X-frame. Samson is pretty strong himself in his pose, having an impressive X-frame, plus he seems like being a little bit drier overall, but it might be because of the photo quality. Both are looking strong, but Ramy has a much wider structure, his lats are way bigger and more visible, and those outer quads have a life of their own. And here in 2018, there was no sign of any holes or any dents in his quads. This second pose goes to Big Ramy. Side chest is next, which is the most exciting pose in this comparison, as I personally think it's the strongest pose for both of them. And even though Samson Dauda is the best in the world today when it comes to this pose, unfortunately for him, Prime Big Ramy is the best of all time when it comes to the side chest. And I don't want any of you Ronnie Coleman or Kevin Levrone fans in the comment section to get mad, but objectively speaking, upper body plus especially lower body, this Ramy is the GOAT in this pose. And what was awesome in 2018 is that Ramy didn't lean down as much as he did later in his career when he was winning those Olympias. I think this display was perfect, and like I said, nobody ever matches this look. If you weren't convinced yet, just take another look at this other picture as well. This is total freaking domination from Big Ramy, who leads to one-on poses against Samson. Back double biceps. First of all, another reason why this version of Ramy was so much better than his Mr. Olympia winning physiques is his back. Those lower lats are there, and even though they don't look as strong as Samson's, they're not completely missing like later on, but I digress. Upper back wise, Big Ramy dominates Samson as his back is filled up more and he's got wider lats. Samson has the better taper and, as mentioned, the better lower lats. Downstairs, by the looks of it, Samson might actually be drier. That was Big Ramy's issue throughout his career. That's why he never won the Olympia until 2020, where in 2020 indeed, he finally showcased drier glutes. Too bad his body was already too worn out then. That's why I can't consider it the best overall anymore. Even though it's close, I think I have Samson winning this one, thus the score becomes 2-2. What do you guys think? Back lat spread, and Big Ramy was just too big and wide in the lat spread poses. He may not have the details of a Ronnie or a Dorian or the deep cuts of a Phil Heath in this pose, but he had the widest and biggest back in this pose of all time, which should count for something, and he also had pretty good depth to his back. It's not only width. I think in the back department he beats everything Samson Dauda has got here. Mass, width, arguably even conditioning in this pose. The lower lats look on point too, and from this angle we can notice the striations on his glutes as well. This was truly his best shape of all time. Let me know in the comment section if you agree or not. The score becomes 3-2 for Big Ramy. Up next is the side triceps, and that goat side leg comes into play again, which complicates things a lot. Now, I know this is a triceps pose, but judges really emphasize the importance of the side leg in the side poses. I've just watched Tyler Mannion's review of the Olympia earlier today, and he actually said Samson does a disservice to himself hitting the side triceps like this, because it takes away from the side leg. So the IFBB judges like Tyler Mannion would definitely give Big Ramy a huge advantage in this pose because of that. Now, there is the second aspect of this pose, the upper body including the triceps, where Samson wins in my opinion. He holds his body way better and his triceps is thicker and more developed. All this combined with what in my opinion is a great execution makes me want to give this pose to Samson here. What do you guys think? In my estimation, Samson wins and makes the final score 3-3. Abs and thighs is next, and here was a time when Big Ramy had actually defined abs. Just look at this photo from the side as well, just wow. Even though he doesn't have the smallest waist, this is Hadi Choopan-like definition right here. However, Samson improved on this pose a lot for the Mr. Olympia this year, and even though Ramy has the bigger quads, Samson's quality is superior. All this combined with Samson's superior overall flow, which is very important in this pose, maybe more than in others, takes this pose to your 2024 Mr. Olympia, making the score 4-3 in his favor. Last pose is the most muscular, and based on these pics, it looks like Samson has a little more polish and he probably wins the arms here, but Big Ramy is again on another level. His overall width, overall size, overall muscularity, plus a pretty good level of conditioning makes him pretty invincible here. He also has a defined midsection and the craziest quads of all time. Now, since in the abs and thighs we valued aesthetics a little more above everything else, I believe that in the most muscular we should be putting a little more accent on who's actually more massive, who's actually the more muscular guy, and the answer to that question is Big Ramy, no doubt. Not even with his other variations can Samson Dauda compete with this monster, himself being a monster too. Big Ramy looks incredible in this shot right here, so for me, he wins the most muscular against Samson, making the final score 4-4. Yet again, we have another case where the competitors split in half the 8 mandatory poses, so we don't have an objective winner on points, but based on what I've seen in this comparison, I have a pretty good idea who would win if these two physiques were to meet on stage. At least in my opinion, it would be close indeed. I'm not saying this is a sure thing, but I would actually have Big Ramy as the winner. He's more filled out, more complete overall, and had great conditioning too. Now, I don't know how heavy Big Ramy was here in 2018, arguably around 300 pounds, so on paper, Samson would be heavier, but due to his taller stance and probably heavier bone structure because muscle-wise, Ramy packs way more meat onto his frame here. But hey, this is a great result for Samson Dauda. Big Ramy is one of the greatest of all time in his prime, one bodybuilder who pushed Phil Heath and who was often in the discussion of achieving a level comparable with Ronnie Coleman. And this version right here, the 2018 Mr. Olympia Finals, was the best Big Ramy we've seen, so there is no shame in losing to someone like this. Not to mention that Samson Dauda still has more room to improve. I'm pretty sure we haven't seen the best of him yet. Let me know in the comment section your thoughts on this comparison, like this video for the algorithm, subscribe so you won't miss my future videos, and see you next time.